Hi, I'm YK. I share the quirks I noticed in Japanese business life. Today's theme: would you ever pay someone to tell your boss you are quitting? Sounds strange, right? They are called Taishoku, Daiko, resignation agencies that do the quitting for you. You pay them, and they'll handle your resignation for you completely. When I first heard about this, I honestly thought it was an April Fool's joke, but no, it's a real business. These services aren't niche anymore. They've grown into a recognizable part of Japan's work culture. The biggest player is a company called Momuri, which has handled over 15,000 resignations in the just past 2 years, responding to thousands of cases per month. By the way, Momuri is a clever name. It comes from a Japanese phrase that means, "I just can't do this anymore." It bluntly captures the emotional struggle behind using this kind of service. Typical fees range from $130 to $200, and they'll even handle everything from contacting your employer to negotiating your final paycheck. It's almost like hiring Uber Eats, but instead of delivering sushi, they deliver your resignation letter. So let's start with the obvious question: what makes quitting feel so difficult that people would pay to avoid it? You might be thinking, wait, isn't quitting just telling your boss you are leaving? On paper, sure, it's just a conversation, but in practice, it can feel like confessing to a crime. In Japan, quitting can be really hard. It's not just paperwork, it's personal. There's a sense of guilt or betrayal of letting the team down. Some people even say it's harder to quit than to join. I've seen people delay their resignations for months, stuck in that guilt. So someone realized, what if we did that part for you? And that's how resignation agency became a thing. You can actually hear this relief in the voices of people who've used them. It was over in an instant. I wish I had used it sooner. I couldn't face my boss anymore. This saved me. They even handled my unused paid leave and unpaid overtime. I was genuinely satisfied. These services have become a hot topic in Japan. They've been featured on major TV programs, news shows, and social media. It's no longer just a personal issue. It's a national conversation. Actually, Japan already has a culture that's surprisingly open to this kind of outsourcing. Believe it or not, there are services where you can pay someone to apologize on your behalf, confess your love, even visit your family grave. In the advertising industry where I work, Japan is also known as a country where agency often takes the lead. It's not just about managing media buys. Agencies here speak for the client, shape the tone, and even handle tough negotiations. So when you think about it that way, paying someone to resign for you doesn't feel all that strange. It just fits the culture. Let's talk about who's actually using these services and what's really driving them. Most users are in their 20s and 30s, people already in their careers. But interestingly, it's not just a young person's phenomenon. According to Nikkei, one of Japan's top economic media outlets, around 10% of users are actually in their 50s or older. That really caught my attention. I had assumed this was mostly a Gen Z thing, but clearly it's not. Maybe one reason these services are catching on across all age groups is that Japan already has a culture of outsourcing personal tasks. But maybe there's something deeper. Maybe it's our attitude toward work itself that's shifting. Or maybe they've always been like this, and we are only now admitting it. For people who see work as a place to grow, to take on challenges, to build relationships, and to shape who they are, the idea of outsourcing your resignation feels unthinkable. Like handing your Oscar speech to a stunt double. Imagine them crying and thanking your parents on your behalf. But for others, work is just a way to pay the bills. It's not their identity, and from that perspective, the resignation process is just a hustle. So why not let a professional handle it? At this point, you might be thinking, wait, is this actually heresy? Having option is a good thing. Not everyone has the strength or even the energy to face a tense goodbye head-on. On the other hand, what happens if we outsource too much? Maybe it's just my age, I'm almost 40, but I do wonder about that. Do we start to lose the ability to handle friction? Avoiding it may be easier, but we also lose a chance to grow through the hard parts. To see this more clearly, let's look at how other countries deal with quitting. In nearby South Korea, where hierarchy is strong and social expectations around endurance are similar to Japan, we are also starting to see resignation services emerge. On the flip side, in the US and much of Europe, quitting is pretty straightforward. You just give 2 weeks notice. No drama, no shame. It's seen as a natural step in your career. So maybe the real difference comes down to pressure. In some cultures, quitting is no big deal. In others, it still carries emotional weight. And that might be why services like these are starting to appear. And here in Japan, it's turned into a real debate. Some voices, even big-name business leaders, have been sharply critical. They say, if you need help just to quit, how can you handle tough negotiations later in your career? Or even, that's not adulthood. That's just running away. But on the other side, many push back. They ask, can you really say that to someone who's mentally exhausted? What if the workplace itself is toxic or common sense doesn't even apply? And that's what makes the debate so charged. When I quit my first company, one colleague said something I'll never forget. Are you betraying us? We worked so hard together, why now? I remember freezing up, not knowing what to say. Like I had to defend my decision to leave. Those words stuck with me, but in the end, saying it myself, choosing the words and speaking to them directly helped me feel like it was truly my decision. I still remember that sense of ownership. I don't think I'd ever use a resignation agency myself, but I do understand why some people might choose to. Especially when you are burned out, feeling trapped, and don't have anyone you can really talk to. That's when even a small burnout can feel like the only option. And maybe that's why this topic hits such a nerve. It's not just about quitting, it's about what quitting looks like when you are burned out, isolated, and running out of options. So today, we've seen why quitting can feel so tough in Japan, how resignation agency became a thing, and the debate over whether they are actually healthy. How does this all look from where you are? In your country, do resignation services like this exist? And if they did, would you ever consider using one? Who knows, maybe the next big startup will be anti-resignation agencies, companies you hire to stop your employees from quitting. Scary thought, right? I'd love to hear your take in the comments, and if you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe so we can keep exploring these cross-cultural quirks together.